Welcome back, everyone, to another Ask Me Anything, another Ask a Pagan live stream. All right, how's it going, everybody? Hello, Isaiah. All right. So tonight, there's not a whole lot that I really wanted to talk about, but I do want to bring up something that I feel is important, and that is actually prayer in heathenry. I was going to do a video on this, but I figured this is just as good a place to do it as anywhere. Now, as far as prayer in heathenry goes, there is only one prayer that we know of that is attested to in the Eddas and in the lore. So when it comes to prayer, we have only, like I said, the one actual historic account of prayer. So we can either create our own, or we can look at other religions for inspiration on how we pray. There is no one right way, no wrong way to pray in heathenry. If you want to pray by getting on your knees and saying a formulated, rigid prayer, then go for it. That's perfectly valid. But if you want to jump on the rooftops and pray that way, then it's just as valid, and you can pray that way if you wish. In a way, any offering or sacrifice you make, any ritual you perform is a prayer. It is a invocation of the gods to ask for something or to commune with them. It's a way to connect yourself with them. Hey Corey, just noticed that you popped into the stream. What you missed is just a few moments about prayer in heathenry, and see if I can't pull up the prayer to Suna. So I have it in a book. Give me 1 second, guys. I'll be back in just 2 seconds. All right. So it's right here. It's a practical guide to asatru. There's, like I said, just like the one prayer, and it's a prayer to Suna. I should have probably actually looked this up and had it ready to go before starting the live stream. While I look for this, I'll mention prayer beads for you, Isaiah. Now, prayer beads can be used in heathenry. There's nothing that says that you cannot use them. In fact, honestly, prayer beads can be a very good tool to help you in meditation and for you to help clear your mind or to free your mind. It can help you get into the right mindset for your prayers. And so I'm all for using prayer beads if you want. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Yeah, why can I not find this? All right, well, I'm not going to worry about finding it at the moment. Isaiah, you read it to me earlier in the voice chat, so if you can find it, just put up in the chat where you found it in the book, and I'll look it back up. So So repetition in prayer is a useful tool in aiding meditation and in helping to induce a trance-like state. Um, a lot of Eastern traditions use repetitive prayers or mantras and chants to aid them in their meditation. Even Christians, well, sorry, not Christians, but Catholics use repetition of prayers when they say the rosary. They repeat, if I remember correctly, Hail Marys and well, can't even remember the other one off the top of my head. It's been so long since I've had to learn those. Yeah, Ibn Fadlan did mention a little bit about the prayer practices of the Rus Vikings that he met on his travels. Now, the Rus Vikings were more of the Slavic faith, if I remember correctly. They weren't necessarily as close in their beliefs to the Norse as a lot of people might think. I did not actually know about the man laying face down before the idol and praying before haggling. I don't remember reading that part in his writings. But then again, I just skimmed it. I didn't read it in its entirety. All right. So now that I've gotten out of the way the couple of things that I wanted to say, I'm going to open it up to you guys to go ahead and ask me your questions. Isaiah, you just said where it's at, so page 19. Yeah, here it is. It's from the Saga of the Volsungs, and the prayer is simply this: Hail Day, and hail the sons of day. Hail Suna on her travels. And that's it. That's literally the entire prayer. Hey, Blake, welcome to the live stream. Thank you for joining us. Happy to see all y'all here. All right. So, bring forth the questions, everybody. Either my chat is behind or y'all ain't asking questions. So we need you to ask questions in order to get this live stream underway. 3 most important things for a heathen. Okay. Okay, so 3 most important things for a heathen, in my opinion. Number 1 is balance. Balance within yourself and without finding your balance with your world. Then number 2, the next important thing is gods. Gods and the spirits. I hold them equally as important in my view, because each has their own place and their own reason for why they should be worshipped. And I feel like the ancestral spirits are definitely included in that mix. So you have the beings like the Aesir, the Vanir, the Jotuns, the Thurs, which are like the primordial, chaotic beings. Now, the third most important thing is family. definitely feel like family has to be one of the most important things in heathenry. Because if you can't nourish your relationship with your family, then how can you nourish your relationship with the gods and spirits? Um, do I have any plans for doing a breakdown on the gods or goddesses? I could do a quick, simple breakdown of the gods and basically like give one or two sentences about each of them, explaining like, who they were. But I feel like if I'm gonna do a breakdown on the gods, like each of the gods really needs like their own video in order to truly do justice to who they are and what they represent. Um, just doing one video quickly listing out the gods and what they're gods of or what they're associated with isn't going to do them nearly enough justice. Um, and honestly, I don't know enough about all of the gods to feel like I'm a good enough authority to speak on them. I posted up a couple of videos that talked about the gods. Like I've got a few videos that talk about Odin and Loki and Heimdall, but those are generally revolving around specific subjects where those gods are involved. It's like for the one video I did on who Odin was, that's really the only video that I really talked a lot more about who a specific god was rather than just a specific concept associated with them. No, no. The ideas of reciprocity, respect, and frith are important, and I do think that they are three things that you really should be focusing on with this faith. However, with three things that I said are important, practicing reciprocity, respect, and frith and everything is part of honoring the gods and spirits, part of honoring your family, and it's. I honestly like. I feel like if you don't hold frith and you don't show the proper respect, you don't engage in the cycle of reciprocity, then you're not upholding your family. You're not honoring the gods and spirits, and you're sure as hell not finding balance within yourself and the world. You might find balance within yourself a little bit, but you're going to be way out of balance with the world. So, in order to have that balance, in order to have the relationship with the gods, in order to have that relationship with your family, respect, for reciprocity are all necessary to each of those. The Practical Heathen's Guide. Just happened. But the Practical Heathen's Guide to Asatru does have a breakdown on several of the gods, and it gives a few paragraphs on each, and some they're really just like little short few sentences, and others it gives more detail. And I feel that honestly, like the way that Patricia LaFile portrays the gods in those few sentences, it's not enough in order for you to really understand them. Plus, like you know my theory about Heimdall being Heimir doesn't quite jive with the way that she portrays Heimir, because she speaks very little about him and portrays him as a very unimportant deity. And every god has importance, and it doesn't matter whether you think they're not important or not. They have an important part to play in the cycle of the world. the way that things are going to play out. God damn, why is my hair being so fucking crazy? Okay, so my definition of balance is accepting the chaos, knowing that there is a random inherent chance that anything can happen, that it can go well or it could go bad. Living in balance with the world means not going out of your way to take advantage of the world, and doing things to actively make the world a more hospitable place, a better place, such as don't go hunting and shoot an animal and then just leave the carcass and put the head up on a wall. No, don't do that. That's not living in balance. That's destroying part of the world. Whereas you go hunting, you shoot an animal, you take it home, and you eat the meat, you use the hide, then that's part of the balance of the world because you're maintaining that balance. That animal's life is meaning something. It's going towards giving life elsewhere. Another example would be like, say you have a neighbor that is extremely irritating. Living in balance means not letting it get on your nerves, not hitting them upside the head with that shovel, no matter how much you might want to. It means being nice to them, saying hi, and even if they're mean as hell to you, staying nice to them. Being in balance with everything is being in harmony, knowing what you're doing in the world and what you're heading towards has a positive effect on everybody that you interact with, and everything that you interact with. Living in balance means that you're not disrupting the natural order of the world. You're not going out there and strip mining a mountain into a canyon. It means you're not going out there and ripping people off or robbing them. It means you feed the homeless, you plant a tree, do something to help repair the damage that we've done to this world. Okay. Of the Brothers Grimm stories, which one is my favorite / most informative? Honestly, I love the Three Little Pigs. Not gonna lie. There's just something about the wolf like eating the grandmother and taking her place, and then eating Little Red Riding Hood, only for them to be cut out of the wolf's stomach with an axe later on. It's just, I don't know, it's so well written that it always just stuck with me that was my favorite one of their fairy tales. And for those of you that aren't aware, the Brothers Grimm, their fairy tales are very dark and not at all like Disney. No. I don't know why you think my example of balance sounds very specific, Corey. Maybe if you can give me a little bit more information to work with, I can respond to that. All right, so chaos. Chaos is the inherent random chance of any natural system. Chaos is all of the possibilities to any action. It is the fundamental force that keeps our world and our entire universe in balance. Everything is born from chaos, and everything will die in chaos. At least that's what I said. So chaos essentially is, like Blake was saying, the energy of cause and effect. It is the potential of any possibility. So a lot of people like to think of chaos as being malevolence, as being this evil force of destruction in the world. Chaos is not inherently destructive. Chaos can create just as much as it can destroy. It can give life just as it can take life. Chaos is not malevolent, but it is not malevolent. It is both, and it is neither. Chaos doesn't care about you. Chaos cares about the end goal. Oh, the neighbor. Yeah, actually, I really like my neighbors. It may have felt very specific for you, but it was just the first thing I could think of off the top of my head. I'm actually on really good terms with my neighbors. Hello, Robert. Thank you for joining us. What is my Phildia, and what's my view on them? Okay, so I'll start off by telling you what my view of Phildia are. A lot of people will use the term spirit animal or totem animal. It's all terms that can be very specific to certain religions and certain cultures and faiths can be a bit picky about appropriation of their terms. But it's all, in a sense, kind of similar and kind of the same, but there's different ways of looking at it. And the way that I see it is that your Phildia is a spirit that has attached itself to you, to your faith. They have, whether for positive or negative reasons, decided to intertwine their weird with yours and to intertwine their faith with yours. You know, they could be guiding you for your betterment, or they could be trying to cause malevolence in your life, cause despair, destruction, cause bad things to happen. So a Phildia is, like I said, a spirit, but what that spirit is could be just about anything. It could be the spirit of a past pet. It could be a spirit of an ancestor. It could be just a random land spirit or house spirit that decided to attach itself to you. Now, from what I understand, majority of the time, Phildia tend to be female, but not always. There's a lot of male. And then sometimes, a lot of times, when they're female, they tend to be like ancestral spirits, from my understanding, from what I've been told by a lot of people and from what I've read. But there's really no limitation on what spirit could attach to you and become your Phildia. Now, as to what form that Phildia takes is dependent not only upon you, but also upon that spirit. So a lot of people, their Phildias appear to them in the form of animals, yet those Phildias may actually be an ancestral spirit that was an actual person at one time. So the form that they take when you see them, when you interact with them, is a form that is a representation of yourself and of them, and of that bond between the two of you. Now, I used to say when I was growing up that my familiar, my spirit animal, was Black Panther. And I fought tooth and nail to defend that to anybody that challenged it. I was wrong. I was in complete denial of what it actually was, and it had been blatantly obvious and in my face for a very long time. Um, so, my Phildia, I have two of them. Yes, I do have two, and they are ravens. I do not know what their names are, but I call them Hugin and Munin simply because, now, my name, Hugh, means soul. The Norse word for soul is Hugin, which is also the root for the name Hugin, which means spirit, and Munin means mind. Um, Now, for years, my gamer tag in pretty much every game that I played was Hugh Munn, and this was long before I realized that my Phildia were actually ravens. Um, and so I've been accepting of them being ravens for uh, a few years now. I was not much of a bird person. I always liked birds, but I wasn't really that much of a bird person until I came to realize that my Philgia were actually ravens and not the big, giant, awesome cat that I wanted it to be. Um, so my Philgia are actually kind of jerks to me sometimes. They don't mind cleaning out my flaws and when I fuck up. But that also comes partially with the fact that I follow Loki, and Loki has no problem in pointing out my fuck ups either. Um, so, Isaiah, you asked whether or not all of the gods are benevolent, and no, not all of the gods are benevolent. Some of them are malevolent, but it mostly depends on the moment and the situation. So, whether a god is malevolent or benevolent to you depends on whether or not what they're doing is working in their own best interest. Because, like it or not, most of the gods are selfish, they are flawed, they are imperfect beings, which means that they could very easily not give a shit about you and just do something that has a negative effect on your life. So they could very well be benevolent, but they could just as easily be malevolent towards you. Uh, Corey, I don't know what your Philgia is. A squirrel would be hilarious. And I'll tell you what, when we go camping, we'll see if we can figure it out for you. That's awesome, Robert, that you have a bobcat and a raven as your Philgia. Mine both show up as ravens, and they try to talk over each other when I try to interact with them. It's hard to get in a word otherwise. So usually when I'm meditating and doing some sort of trance work where I'm talking with them, I don't get to actually talk much. Plus they talk in circles a lot, so I don't actually really usually get much information that's useful. I don't know about Sunday. I'll give you an answer on that in like an hour. I'm glad you asked the question about Loki being malevolent or benevolent. He is neither. Loki is the embodiment of chaos, and like I said earlier, chaos is neither malevolent nor benevolent. Chaos is chaos. Chaos is the means to an end. Loki, his actions, whether they are good or harmful, have always been guiding things towards where they need to be. For instance, if Loki hadn't uh, if Loki hadn't shapeshifted into a mare and gone off and trysted with that horse, then that giant builder would have been able to finish the wall around Asgard, and they wouldn't have to give up. What was it? Frigg? Can't remember exactly which one of them, but it doesn't matter because, as far as I'm concerned, they're the same guys. But if he hadn't done that, the walls would have been finished. The gods would have had to give up one of their own to a giant. And because he did do it, the wall was not finished. They didn't have to give up one of their own. And they even managed to get an 8-legged horse out of it when Loki finally gave birth. So Loki's shenanigans serve a purpose. Doesn't mean it's good or bad for you, but it does mean that it will get the world to where it needs to go. Hello, Bunny. So now, other gods from other pantheons similar to Loki, I can name a few off the top of my head. There's Anansi from Africa. That's the trickster spider god, trickster spirit. In Roman mythology, there is Janus, the two-headed or two-faced god of choices and doorways. There's plenty of trickster spirits in Native American cultures. So Loki is essentially a trickster god, and from my research, pretty much every polytheistic faith has trickster spirits. Yeah, without Loki's shenanigans, we would absolutely lose a large portion of the mythology and the lore. Hell, without Loki's shenanigans, we wouldn't have Ragnarok. We wouldn't have the death and rebirth of everything. Yes, exactly, Robert. Without change, we stagnate, and chaos is the agent of that change. Without chaos, we would not have that ability to die and be reborn, so to speak. A great example is like those forests that burn down every single year in order for them to be able to grow back. That is the cycle of chaos right there in a nutshell. Without the fire burning everything down, life would not be able to continue in those areas. Speaking of weird, the English word weird, W-E-I-R-D, actually does come from the Norse concept of weird, or W-Y-R-D, which is fate. Now, your weird is made up of your orlog. Your orlog is made up of the weird of everyone that came before you. So, your parents' weird is part of your orlog. Your orlog creates your weird. It's a slightly confusing subject, and it is definitely deserving of its own video, and I do plan on doing a video on that for you guys at some point. Yes, blueberries are delicious. They grow all over the place here in Florida, so I actually need to go blueberry picking again. Used to be able to get like big old buckets of them for like $5 just by going over to the farms where they let you pick them yourself. Yeah, the Practical Heathen's Guide to Asatru doesn't really do justice to the concept of chaos at all. Personally, I feel like a lot of writers, a lot of pagan writers that talk about this stuff try and avoid actually talking about chaos because there are such misconceptions about it and such social stigmas around it that a lot of people just automatically associate chaos with negativity, and so it definitely feels like people try and avoid talking about it. All right, folks, anybody else have any more questions for me? Anything else you'd like me to discuss? All right, guys, I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to type out your questions. What is the speed of a flying swallow? Oh, shit, I actually know this. I'm going to have to look it back up because I can't remember. Because it honestly depends on whether or not you're talking about a European swallow or an African swallow. But assuming that you're talking about a European swallow and that it's unladen and it's approximately 24 miles per hour. So, yeah. Airspeed of a flying unladen swallow is about 24 miles per hour, 11 meters per second. Can we add a Heathen market channel on the Discord? That's kind of what the Maker's Market was intended to be, where people could share things that they've created and potentially sell them as well. So, I could create another channel on the Discord that could actually be like a marketplace. But as of right now, it's just the Maker's Market channel. If you made something and you want to sell it, do so there. Yes, I'm aware that there's about a 15 to 20-second delay, Isaiah. You said that earlier. So I'm going to be wrapping this up here early tonight, I think. Unless any of you guys have any last minute questions, so I'll give you a chance to post up any questions. And then, like I said, we'll call it a night here early and wrap up the stream. Actually, the picture is not slightly tilted. I don't think. Actually, you might be right. I'll mess with it later. I feel like if I try and fix it, I'm just going to break it, and that's not a cheap map. That got passed down to me. I'm not entirely sure where it came from. Dude, you've asked me about heathen crafting skills before, man. Like, any crafting skill can be a heathen crafting skill, man. It just matters whether or not you're putting, whatever you're putting your energy into. If you're doing it in such a way that you feel like it honors the god, then it's a heathen crafting skill, in my opinion. And as for naming ceremonies, now there's controversy over naming ceremonies in the sense that some people feel like a naming ceremony is just when you give the legal name to your child. Some people feel a naming ceremony should be more of something that you do when you have been in the faith for a while and you joined a kindred and you have become a member of a community. So I'm a little bit torn on naming ceremonies. Honestly, I would personally love to do a naming ceremony for each of my kids, for giving them their like actual names before the gods and everything, but that's a discussion that I have to have with Bonnie at some point on to see how she feels about it. Because while my love is a pagan, she does not have the exact same beliefs, nor does she ascribe to the same pantheon. So doing anything like that, I'd have to talk with her about. I am open to naming ceremonies being a thing amongst the community on Discord and with all of us, if that is something that people are interested in. I do think that, yeah, there should be two separate versions of a naming ceremony. Like I said, there should be one for when you're born and you get your legal name. That should be part of it, and then a separate ceremony when you join a kindred. What products do I use to shave, dude? I just have like a little electric razor that I buzz it off with, and occasionally I'll use shaving cream. But as for like the actual razor, I just use a single-bladed safety razor. I actually feel like it gives me a better shave than the 5-bladed razors I used to use. I did not actually use one of those tonight. I just used the electric razor to buzz things off. Yeah, I would prefer it if I didn't have to shave, but I'm afraid my lady would get mad at me. She thinks I get too hairy. Also feels like it's too scratchy. But I like my goatee, and I'm going to grow it out and make it nice and long. Get it long enough so I can tuck it into my belt. Yeah. But at this rate, it'll be like pure white in the next like 5 years. So grow it out for the next 5 years. I probably get it probably about something like. All right. Now, with that, I'm going to say, have a good night, guys. I am going to. Alright, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream early tonight. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. You'll find down in the description a link to the Discord as well as to my Patreon. Now, the Patreon does give you access to a members-only area on Discord, as well as to monthly live streams that I will be starting eventually. Now, the Patreon does go to support the channel so that I can do giveaways and buy more books to review for you guys. And I do greatly appreciate every bit of support that everybody shows, whether it's through Patreon or through simply being a member of the community and engaging here on these live streams, even just viewing videos on YouTube. All your support, it means everything to me. I love you all, and until next time, have a good night, everybody.